So I'm going to break down the writing process so that there's not so much mystery, okay? Basically, you have a few stages, okay? There's the pre-writing stage. Now, this is where you're just getting ideas together. You're just sort of jotting down things that come to your mind as far as a topic that you might want to settle on. This could also include responding to it to your topic idea in free writing and getting all your thoughts down on paper. But it's rough. It's not really looking like it might you might want it to be. Okay, and this leads into what I call the drafting stage. Now, the drafting stage is when you're putting those initial thoughts down on paper, and it can kind of go back and forth as you see with that arrow going back and forth uh, between pre-writing and getting something down that starts to look something like an essay, although it's not quite finished. So free writing, if you've heard of that, that's just where you're writing whatever comes to your mind. All right, it's just whatever's there. It's rough. So you'll hear us. We do a rough draft. Okay, that's just getting things out. I consider that more of a pre-writing stage, but it goes back and forth. Drafting. Okay, and I like cars, so I'm using a car analogy. Okay, so let's say that you have the perfect car in your mind. If someone said to you, you want to get a car, and I'll give you any car that you want. You can get any car that you want. So something analogous to that in a pre-writing stage might be you start thinking of cars that you'd like. Maybe you want a BMW, you want a Mercedes. Well, mine would be some kind of sports car. And so going from pre-writing where I'm just thinking in my head, of topics, and then down to drafting. Okay, that's when you are jotting this down on paper and it's starting to look something like a car. Okay, I'm just using the analogy here. It's not ready to drive off the lot, as you can see. It's just a sketch. Okay, you're just sort of getting started, getting ideas out. There's pencil marks. It's a drawing. It's not ready to drive off the lot yet. The car's not real in your hands, right? But you are getting those initial ideas from the pre-writing out onto paper and starting to draft something that looks like a car, or in our case in writing, something that looks like an essay. Okay. Next, I would say we go into something like revision. Now, we have a space designed in class during our final weeks where you're actually working on revision. And then, so from here, when you're going through the writing process, just in our workshop assignments that y'all are turning into me, you're still mainly in the drafting stage. But what you'll see is that you'll be asked to do a peer review with someone um, who's in close proximity with you. And that peer review is going to give you some feedback. It's going to be prior to your getting my feedback, your instructor's feedback. And what you're expected to do is from that peer review, that will help you get some ideas to then do some initial revising. So you'll find in this class that revision is absolutely built into the writing process. It's normal. Everybody does it. And if you don't do it, you end up with something that's not complete. Okay. So in the revision stage, you have something that is going from just this draft, this sketch that's not, it's got erase marks, it's got pencil marks. You're actually building something that could be driven off the lot, but as you see, it's still not complete, and you take parts off that maybe after further review don't belong, and you have someone else look at maybe test drive it. It's not working. This looks more like a go-kart, okay? It's not the sports car that you had in mind. And so you realize that revision, and then look how the arrow goes back, and then you go back to the drawing board. This is why writing is such a frustrating subject for students in general, because they're finding that the process of writing is a lot of work, and it is, and that's normal, okay? But after you have taken it through these steps, you can eventually move into the final step, which is the editing. So after you have taken your own writing through thorough revision, which will happen again and again, as we see, this is a circular phenomena, okay? But as you're taking it through this process, okay, once you get to a space, which will be in our class, will be more towards the final weeks of class, you'll find that you can then begin editing. Now, editing is where you want to focus on the polish, the shine, okay, and making it look like as perfect a piece as it can, okay? So this is where you got your car, you're adding the wax, you're adding the wash, you're taking out any of the dirt and grime, anything that you've learned through your revisions, okay, and you're finally almost ready to drive it off the lot, okay? So you'll see in our final weeks of class that we focus on editing ourselves. In these stages, all of these stages, really, you should not be worrying about grammar, punctuation, mechanics, all of those things that we've grown so accustomed to hearing about throughout our elementary, junior high, high school, or developmental college classes. In the pre-writing, drafting, especially those stages, you should not be worrying about grammar rules. And you know why? It's because you'll never get something drawn. You'll never start. You'll have these roadblocks in your head, and it'll keep you from driving and starting. Okay, you have to get started. You have to get something that you can work with, and then over time, the final stage is editing. Then you look at some of the grammar things. And so in our class, and you'll see this in these lessons here, that we're going to focus on what I call getting your writing diagnosis. And this is a collective, a progressive um, objective where you are gathering my feedback and learning how to look at your writing as a collective throughout the semester and identify what are some common patterns of errors that you need to work on. Everyone's got 3 or 4, maybe 5 patterns of errors that you've repeated. That's what the pattern means, that you have repeated throughout your writing, and that's what's tripping you up grammar wise. So you don't have to know all the grammar rules of the English language, okay? Once you get and are able to formulate your own writing diagnosis, which is something that I help you with on each writing assignment, you get to identify your 3, 4, maybe 5 things, and those are the things that you focus on. Just worry about focusing on those 3 to 5 things, and then in the final weeks in our real editing, where we really get down to learning how to edit ourselves, that's what you want to focus on. But by that stage, you will have all of this other stuff ready to go. You'll have a car. You're just learning how to make it look better, look as good as it can look. And you want your reader not to be confused and all that stuff. So that is the writing process, basically as a whole, and that is going to be a major focus in this class, is making sure that you all understand the writing process, apply it in your writing. This class is a workshop class, and so that's what this is all about.